Okay, so picture this. You're standing at Saqqara, it's dawn, the desert. And the wind is kicking up, blowing sand over these old stone ruins that even in 2890 BC are already feeling ancient.
And the atmosphere is just heavy. There's this tension in the air. The first dynasty of Egypt, the very people who invented the country, has just collapsed. It's failing.
And that's really the hook for today, isn't it? We always think of ancient Egypt as this, eternal, stable thing, pyramids, gold, the Nile.
Right, unshakable.
But today we're looking at a moment where it almost ended before it even really got going.
We're diving into a full-on power vacuum. The king is dead, the government's in pieces, and there's just chaos. And then someone steps out of the shadows.
A figure who is definitely not a household name. He's not Tutankhamun, he's not Ramesses, he's a pharaoh named Hotepsekhemwy.
Which is a bit of a mouthful, I know, but he is basically the fixer of ancient Egypt.
He's the guy you call when the entire system has broken down.
Exactly. So today we're pulling from the Abydos king list, from the priest historian Manetho, and some really fascinating archaeology at Saqqara. We want to figure out how this one man pulled Egypt back from total anarchy.
And why should we care about a guy we can barely pronounce?
Because without him, there are probably no pyramids. It's really that simple.
Okay, that is a bold claim. I like it. So let's start with the branding. You always tell me that in Egypt, a name isn't just a label, like, Steve or Jane. It's a mission statement.
It's pure propaganda. When a king takes the throne, especially in a crisis, his name is the headline. It tells everybody, the priests, the nobles, the people, exactly what his policy is going to be.
So Hotepsekhemwy, let's break that down. I know the first part. Hotep, we see it all the time. It means peace.
Peace, or to be satisfied, to be at rest. It's a very calming word. It suggests things are in balance.
Okay, peace. Then the middle part. Sekhem.
Sekhem is a bit more forceful, means power, but a very specific kind of power, often shown as a scepter, a tool of authority.
So you've got peace and power right next to each other. Interesting.
And then you have the ending, the why. This is the real key.
The grammar nerd part.
It is. Because ancient Egyptian has singular, plural, and this special form for exactly two of something, a dual. That's what why is.
So when you put it all together,
you get the two powers are reconciled, or the two powers are at peace.
Wow. That is incredibly specific. That's not a generic, I'm a big, strong king.
Yeah.
It's pointing to a very real conflict.
It's a manifesto. He is shouting from the rooftops that before him the two powers were fighting. And he is the one who stopped it.
It's like a president getting elected and changing his name to the national crisis has ended.
That is exactly the vibe. It acknowledges the problem, but positions him as the solution.
So the obvious question then is, what are the two powers? My mind immediately goes to geography, Upper and Lower Egypt.
That's theory A. And it's the classic interpretation. The Nile Valley in the south, the Delta in the north. It's very likely the country was literally splitting apart, and he was the one who, glued it back together.
Makes sense. It's the fundamental duality of the country.
Precisely. But there's another idea, theory B, which is more about bloodlines.
A succession crisis.
Exactly. The two powers could be two rival royal families. Maybe the last king, Qa'a, died without a clear heir or with too many sons, and you have these two factions going to war over the throne.
So Hotepsekhemwy comes in and says, hey, I've brought these two warring families together. Maybe he married someone from the other side?
Political marriage would be the classic move, yes. But then there's theory C, the spiciest one.
The religious angle.
The religious angle. The two powers as the gods Horus and Seth.
Okay, we need to pause on this, because Horus and Seth aren't just any two gods. This is the core conflict in Egyptian thought, isn't it?
It's fundamental. Horus is the falcon god, the symbol of order, of rightful kingship. The pharaoh is Horus on earth. Seth is the opposite. He's chaos, the desert storm, the usurper who murdered his own brother.
So they are eternal enemies.
Locked in combat forever. So if Hotepsekhemwy claims he's reconciled Horus and Seth,
he's saying he's balanced the entire cosmos, not just the country.
it's a massive claim. He's not just a politician. He's a theological necessity. He's telling everyone the civil war on the ground was a reflection of a war in heaven, and he's fixed both.
So let's look at how he takes power. The last king of the First Dynasty is this guy Qa'a. Do we even know if Hotepsekhemwy was related to him? Or was this a coup?
It's murky. That's the honest answer if we don't have a birth certificate. But we do have one piece of evidence that's kind of a smoking gun, the archaeology. We know that Hotepsekhemwy conducted the funeral rites for King Qa'a.
Okay, why is that so huge? I mean, it sounds respectful, but
Because of the myth. In the Osiris myth, it's Horus who buries his murdered father, Osiris. And that act, the act of burial, is what confirms him as the legitimate heir.
so by burying his predecessor, he's legally and ritually becoming the new Horus.
Exactly. He's saying, I am the rightful son and heir, even if he wasn't biologically. If he'd just murdered the guy, he'd probably have tried to erase his memory, not give him a grand state funeral.
It's a brilliant political move. You show respect for the past to legitimize your own future.
But the state he inherited was an absolute mess. His mission wasn't to go conquer new lands. It was just to get the government working again, to restore control, especially over the Nile Delta, which seems to have been breaking away.
It's the really unglamorous work of statecraft, infrastructure and bureaucracy.
Which is so much harder than winning a battle. Building a functioning state takes years of grinding, thankless work.
Okay, so normally when we talk pharaohs, we ask, what did he build? We want to see the pyramid. But Hotepsekhemwy doesn't have one.
No pyramid, not at all. And this is where his story gets really strange. To find his tomb, you go to Saqqara, but you don't look up. You have to look down.
It's underground.
Completely. It's this massive, sprawling underground complex. A huge network of galleries and storage rooms cut deep into the bedrock. It's a labyrinth.
And if you go there today, you could just walk right over it.
You absolutely could, because of where it's located.
Which is where?
It's directly underneath the pyramid complex of a much, much later king, a king named Unas.
Wait, a later pharaoh built his pyramid right on top of Hotepsekhemwy's tomb.
Right on top of it.
Yes.
That seems incredibly rude.
It's a bit of a historical insult, isn't it? Unas's builders even broke into some of Hotepsekhemwy's galleries and used them as part of their own foundation work.
Wow. Literally buried by history.
Literally. But the tomb itself is so important because it's a transitional design. It's not a First Dynasty mastaba, and it's not a pyramid. He was doing something new, focusing on this vast, deep underworld.
And to build something like that, you need a functioning state.
That's the key point. You can't excavate that much rock without a stable economy to pay and feed the workers. The tomb itself is proof that his reconciliation plan was actually working.
So what did they find inside? I'm guessing it was robbed?
Oh, totally cleaned out in antiquity. The gold, the furniture, all gone. But the robbers left behind the things they saw as trash.
Which is treasure for us.
Exactly. They left behind hundreds of clay seals, from wine jars and storage containers.
Yes. Mud stoppers that were stamped with the king's official seal. His Horus name.
And this is that Sarek symbol, right? Describe it for us.
So you imagine a rectangle? The bottom part looks like a palace facade. That's the earthly palace, the administration. And sitting right on top of it is the falcon god, Horus.
So it's the god in the palace.
It's a symbol of divine authority on earth. And finding hundreds of these seals proves that goods were being collected, taxed, stored, and moved in his name. The machinery of state was running.
I want to circle back to that religious tension you mentioned, the Horus versus Seth thing. Did Hotepsekhemwy's truce actually last?
Well, that's the tragedy of it. It holds during his reign. But the tension is just simmering.
Yeah.
A few generations after him, you get a king named Peacemaker. And he does something, well, it's unthinkable.
What does he do?
He takes the Horus falcon off his royal crest
Okay.
and replaces it with the animal of Seth.
Whoa.
Look at that.
That's like taking the eagle off the presidential seal and putting, I don't know, a dragon on it.
It's a seismic shift. Seth is chaos. For a king to align himself with Seth over Horus suggests the country was in deep ideological trouble again. It shows that Hotepsekhemwy's peace was fragile. It was a patch-up job.
So he was basically just holding the door shut against a storm.
That's a perfect way to put it. He's the great reconciler, balancing all these opposing forces his entire reign, knowing that if he slips once, the whole thing could fall apart again.
It just changes how you see him. He's not this grand remote figure. He's a crisis manager constantly putting out fires.
Constantly. And this brings us to his legacy, because if you open a history book, he's a footnote. He's the boring king.
Right. No great war, no famous gold mask. You don't see the treasures of Hotepsekhemwy exhibit at the museum.
But I would argue that boring was exactly what Egypt needed at that moment.
Make the case for the boring king.
Because without him, the old kingdom, the age of pyramids, might never have happened. If he hadn't stabilized the state, Egypt could have just dissolved back into a collection of warring towns.
So he didn't just save a dynasty. He saved the entire concept of a unified Egypt.
He laid the foundation, he stabilized things, so his successors, like Ninetcher, could have long, peaceful reigns. And that long peace is what eventually allowed the Third Dynasty to rise.
And the Third Dynasty gives us King Djoser.
And King Djoser builds the Step Pyramid, the first monumental stone building in history. You cannot build something like that in a country at war with itself. You need decades of stability and prosperity.
So Djoser gets all the credit for the amazing building.
But Hotepsekhemwy is the one who poured the foundation that the whole thing stands on. He was the structural engineer of the Egyptian state.
It's that invisible history, isn't it? We see the spectacular result, but we don't see the messy, difficult work that made it possible.
He's the bridge. He's the bridge over troubled waters that allowed Egypt to get to the other side.
It's a powerful idea, and looking at his name one last time, the two powers are reconciled, there's a dark side to that too.
There is. And this is really the final takeaway. You only need to talk about reconciliation if there's been a profound split. You only talk about peace when you've just come out of a war.
His name is basically proof of how bad things were.
His name is a scar. It shows us that the rise of Egypt wasn't this smooth, inevitable process. It was violent and fragile, and it almost failed.
And the most important moments in history are sometimes the things that didn't happen, the disasters that were averted.
Exactly. History is often silent about the crises that were stopped by one competent person. We never talk about the collapse that Hotepsekhemwy prevented. We just see the pyramids that came later. If he had failed, our idea of ancient Egypt would be completely different.
That is an amazing thought. So next time we see a photo of the pyramids, we should give a little nod to the guy buried in the dark, deep underground at Saqqara.
The man who held it all together so that others could build.
A fantastic place to end. Thank you so much for guiding us through this shadowy but crucial part of Egyptian history.
My pleasure. It was great.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining our Stay Curious, and we'll see you on the next one.